Is this thing on? Oh, there it is. How's everybody doing this morning? Good, good. My name is Eric Adams. I'm the Outreach Program Coordinator with the Department of Procurement Services with the City of Richmond. Thanks for being here today, and thanks for your partnership. A lot of you are already registered suppliers with the City of Richmond, so we look forward to working with you in the future. Very important information to share with you today about an ordinance that was adopted back in October by City Council, Ordinance 2024-186, with the requirement for prevailing wages for construction projects at value of $250,000 and above. We got a presentation for you today that'll tell you about the requirements that are passed down from the Department of Labor and Industry. And we have one of our contracting officers here today that will provide that presentation for you. We'll also move into a Q&A session with the Department of Labor and Industry, as well as our contracting officer from a procurement process standpoint to answer any questions that you have. So enjoy the presentation. At this time, I'd like to hand it over to our Director of Procurement Services, Mr. Rene Alvarez. Rene?
I want you to see where the mic is, folks. Yeah. All right. Hey, first of all, thank you for being here. We've really tried to bring a level of outreach to the city contracting community. Like Eric says, many of you have registered with the city already. Really appreciate it. Department of Procurement Services has grown over the past couple years. We're spreading into areas that we just haven't touched before, and we're really looking forward to, working with you in the future. Consider me the really kind of cheap warm-up band. Corliss Spurlock will be talking with you a little bit. She's the headliner, and she'll be giving you a good primer on prevailing wage. Again, we have the Department of Labor and Industry here from the Commonwealth. We have representatives from DPU, from DPW, and my staff from DPS, as well as OMBD. I want to thank them for being here. Kevin, thank you so much for being here. So try to soak it in. We plan on having maybe 2 more webinars down the road this month, as well as we're recording this right now, so this will be available too. Corliss is going to share with you a web page that we have on the rva.gov site under the procurement services area, all about prevailing wage. It has a lot of that can help you answer a lot of the questions, but we'll have the availability to ask. You can ask questions, we can get them answered here, or we could defer them for another time. We can get you some answers as well. So again, I really appreciate all of you being here. Looking forward to a good discussion. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Corliss Spurlock. I am contracting officer, one of the contracting officers with the City of Richmond Procurement Services. Again, thank you for taking time out today to join us for the Prevailing Wage Contractors Training. May I see the hands of those of you who are familiar with prevailing wage for government contracting? Great. Today we will be discussing the prevailing wage requirements for the City of Richmond as it relates to City Code Section 2174. Our prevailing wage focus points for today is: what is a prevailing wage? Also, we will talk about the City of Richmond prevailing wage requirements, the contractor's obligations on prevailing wage contracts, and the non-compliance and liability. As Renee mentioned, as we go through each slide, please keep in mind you will have an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation. Also, the presentation will include QR codes, email addresses that will support the information that is being presented today. Okay, for those of you who did not raise your hand earlier, you may have a question. What is prevailing wage? That's a good question. A prevailing wage refers to the rate, amount, or level of wages, salaries, benefits, and other remuneration prevailing for the corresponding classes of mechanics, laborers, or workers employed at the same work in the same trade or occupation in the locality in which the public facility or immovable property that is the subject of construction is located, which is determined by the Virginia Commissioner of Labor and Industry on the basis of applicable prevailing wage rate determination. The City of Richmond has requirements for this City Code Section 2174, and the first requirement, effective July 1st, 2025, a prevailing wage requirement applies for city-awarded construction contracts that are $250,000 or more in value. However, construction contracts subject to a federal prevailing wage law are exempt from city prevailing wage requirements. And as I go through the presentation, you will be able to understand the difference between the two. The City Code Section 2174 will require the contractor and all subcontractors to pay wages, salaries, benefits, and other compensation to any mechanic, laborer, or worker employed, retained, or otherwise hired to perform services in connection with the contract at or above the prevailing wage rate as established by the Virginia Department of Labor and Industry, better known as DOLE. Now, these are steps that the City of Richmond will be taking concerning the prevailing wage that will be included in all solicitations. Prior to posting a solicitation, the Department of Procurement Services will request a wage determination from DOLE. We will provide DOLE with certain project information such as the project name, construction type, such as highway, building, heavy, or residential. Keep in mind, the wage determination will be included, again, in the solicitation. Contractors may contact DPS through the solicitation Q&A process regarding any missing classifications. If this occurs, DPS will contact DOLE and they will issue a supplement wage determination. Prior to award, DPS also will request a final wage determination from DOLE. If the wage determination is different or has been updated from previous determination, steps must be taken to ensure the apparent low bidder agrees to use the updated determination. This is an example of DOLE's wage determination letter, and a copy may be available if needed. However, this letter includes rates such as laborers, plumbers, and these rates also, these classifications also will have fringe benefits. I will now share with you I will now share with you the requirements for the contractors. But before I move into that, the City of Richmond Just to give a quick snapshot of the requirements, the city has identified projects that will identify projects that are for prevailing wage requirements. We will request the prevailing wage determination rates from DOLE, and we will also include the rates in our solicitation. And just to move further into the presentation, the contractor's obligations. A contractor upon award must provide DOLE with the pay scale for which each craft or trade employed by the project. The pay scale must be certified under oath. Subcontractors also are required to follow the certified pay scale for each of their employees in each trade or craft. The pay scale may be on a form that is attached. I will show that form, or its equivalent, and it can be mailed to Prevailing Wage at dolly.virginia.gov. Contractors are also within 5 days of certifying to DOLE. The contractor and subcontractor must provide a copy of this certification to the City of Richmond. The City of Richmond has a dedicated email address, prevailingwageproject@rva.gov. This is a QR code for the pay scale certification for those of you who would like to take a snapshot of that. This will include the certification form, and I will also have copies of this QR code at the end of the presentation. This is a copy of the pay scale certification for Public Works project. And on that form, it also includes the DOLE's address, email address to forward your form. The next section for a contractor's obligation, each contractor and subcontractor is subject to the provisions of City Code Section 2174 shall post during the entire time work is being performed on city construction projects. A clearly legible statement of the general prevailing wage rate for each craft and classification. Those were the classifications and rates shown on the previous slide that included the rate amounts. This prevailing wage rates must be that are determined by DOLE must be posted in a prominent and easily accessible place at the work site and also the pay site in English and in any other language primarily spoken by employees on the work site. Within 10 days of posting the prevailing wage rates, the contractor and subcontractor shall certify that posting of the prevailing wage rates, again to the DOLE email address as well as the City of Richmond email address. This is the QR code for the certification of posting prevailing wage rates. This is the form, and this is a copy of the form. A few more obligations for the contractor for record keeping. The contractor and subcontractor must keep and maintain and preserve records relating to wages paid, hours worked by each individual performing work of any mechanical, labor, or worker, and a schedule of their occupation or work classification at which each individual performing work of any mechanical labor or worker on the construction project. Records must be preserved for a minimum of 6 years from the contract expiration and termination. Records should be made available to Doley or the City of Richmond within 10 days of a request for information. Contractors shall certify that the records reflect the actual hours worked and amounts paid to workers for whatever time period is requested. In addition to applying the prevailing wage rates to its own employees pursuant to the terms in the contract with the city, the contractor shall include the provisions of City Code Section 2174 in every subcontract so that the provisions are binding on each subcontractor. Non-compliance and liability. For any contractor or subcontractor employing any mechanic, laborer, or worker to perform work contracted to be done under the construction contract at a rate that is less than the prevailing wage rate, the contractor or subcontractor is liable to the individual for payment of all wages plus interest at an annual rate of 8% occurring from the date the wages were due. The contractor also may be disqualified from bidding on contracts with any public body with the contractor or subcontractor until has been made restitution to the individuals. And the last, those who willingly violate City Code Section 2174 will be considered guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. So it's very important that the guidelines that we talk about today and any information you may receive from our handouts on our website, that those guidelines are actually completed. In summary, upon award of any construction project to the project subject to the provisions of City Code Section 24, the contractor must certify under oath to Doley the pay scale of each craft or trade employed by the project. Within 5 days of certifying to Doley the pay scale of each craft or trade, the contractor and subcontractor must provide a copy of that certification to the City of Richmond. During the entire time work is being performed, contractors and subcontractors must post a clearly legible statement of the general prevailing wage rates of each craft and classification. Within 10 days of posting, the contractor or subcontractor shall certify to Doley and the City of Richmond the Department of Procurement Services. And lastly, in summary, the contractor and subcontractor must maintain and preserve records relating to the wages paid, hours worked, the work classification for a minimum of 6 years after the expiration or termination of the contract. This is the page for contact information. I have the QR code noted for Doley. You may. And we also have information for the City of Richmond Prevailing Wage Project. This is the QR code for the City of Richmond. Okay. And for those of you that may not have gotten the QR codes, again, those will be available for you at the end of today's training. At this time, I would like to introduce Michael Blankenship with the Department of Doley. And any questions that you all may have at this time, there will be a mic available for you. Eric? Thank you.
Corliss, thank you so much for the presentation, very informative. As Corliss mentioned, we have opportunity for Q&A at this time with Corliss from the Department of Procurement Services and with Micah Blankenship from Dolly. I would ask that if you do have a question, that you would meet our management analyst with the Department of Procurement Services, Shayna Johnson, at the back of the room here, and ask your questions of Micah and Corliss. Thank you so much. Does anyone have a question?
Come on back. Hello there.
So first question, are there any implications on existing contracts? Oh, sorry. Are there any implications on existing contracts that are already underway?
We actually have contracts that will be published soon. So far, we have not had contracts as this starts July 1st of 2025.
Okay, so the project that I'm currently working on will go through 2027, and it's already under contract. So will there be any prevailing wage implications on that
No.
one? No? Okay.
Yes, it will be effective July 1st for solicitations that are posted,
Okay.
not for existing contracts.
And then one more question. When you said the wage determinations would be made prior to solicitation and then revisited before the contract was awarded, if there is an increase in that time period, does the contractor get to reevaluate their estimate, or is it just more or less a would you like to move forward or no?
It'll be more or less, would you like to move forward? We will present the new wages, and you will have an opportunity to review those before the award.
Okay, but there won't be any change in contract price from what we had bid, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Ooh,
That means you did an awesome
Make it
job, Ms.
easy.
Corliss.
You
You
made
did
it
an awesome
easy.
job. We don't have any more
well,
questions.
again, okay.
In regards to your subcontractors and contractors themselves, normally on a federally funded professional companies normally do not use the wage rates. They are usually exempt, I would say. I'm a general contractor, so it would be like the surveyors and professional companies like that. Are they going to be held to the standard of the wage rates as well?
For this new ordinance, does not include federal
Right.
projects.
Right, I understand the federal, but under your contract for just the city stuff, would they be, I guess,
Okay.
held for that?
So generally speaking, when it comes to prevailing wages, you're talking about the mechanics, laborers, and workers on the job, and not the kind of admin or managerial positions such as surveyors. Now, if surveyors were playing such a vital role in the project to where an additional wage classification needs to be evaluated for that specific project, that could be a request funneled through the city, made to Dolly, where we could evaluate that, but not all times will surveyors be included in a prevailing wage determination, but it is possible. So if you're seeing a project where that would be a vital part of the project and you believe that it may apply, certainly funnel in that request and it can be evaluated.
And to that point, also, if there are classifications that are not included in the solicitation, there will be an opportunity for you to request a classification which will go to Dolly for review.
Got a question for the state agency there. I know been using the Davis-Bacon wage determinations on a number of projects over the years, and those wage determinations probably get updated twice a year, typically. I guess my question is, does the state update more frequently than the federal, or about the same? And to what degree do you use the federal Davis-Bacon wage determination in determining the state's equivalent?
So actually, the federal Davis-Bacon rates set by the Secretary of Labor under USDOL, they have the potential to be updated weekly. That's not to say every rate will be updated weekly. It could be within a certain locality that only an electrician or a plumber may get updated, or none at all. So there is the potential on a weekly basis those get updated. We review those on a weekly basis. We rely fairly heavily on that, since it is written into the statute that is the basis at which prevailing wages in Virginia are set. So that is something that is reviewed frequently, but we update kind of in line with federal updates, I hope that answers your question. But the potential is weekly. That's not to say it always happens weekly.
Any more questions, concerns? Well, okay. Thank you all. Thank you for your time today.
Folks, again, we appreciate the partnership. We appreciate you coming out this morning for our presentation. Corliss has given you all the resources you need. If you have any questions after this point, obviously the session has been recorded. It'll be made available on the city's YouTube channel. And we also plan to have a couple of different virtual sessions by the end of the month to inform folks that weren't able to make it here today in person. What I want to do now is ask you to stop by our networking booths here. We've got a partner with us from our Office of Minority Business Development, as well as some additional teammates from the Department of Procurement Services. We got some swag items for you. We've got some handouts for you, so stop by and see us. We also got snacks and waters for you as well. So thank you for being here, and have a good day. Appreciate it.